I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop.
Another hit season.
Brought to you by Full Tilt Poker.
We've been renewed.
We've been renewed.
Post-World Series.
Long-term, open-ended, every Friday on Card Player TV.
I'm getting paid.
Episode.
I'm getting paid Shulman money. I got it coming in.
Due to popular demand, our option was picked up. Our pilot was successful, and we're going to be on. To kick off the post-World Series of Poker season, we've got Todd Brunson, and he's an opinionated young man. He's not afraid to speak the truth. We just woke him up, so
we dragged him out of bed at 5 p.m.
We dragged him out of bed, and he's here, and he's going to talk to us about the big game and playing against Sandy Beal and all sorts of high-stakes things that otherwise we wouldn't have much experience with.
Excellent.
So one thing people are fascinated by is the big game, which you've played in for a long time at Bellagio. And now we get a chance to see you on High Stakes Poker, my favorite show. It's a lot of the same characters, but is that a real representation of what goes on in Bobby's room and in the big games, or is it just so different?
It kind of is, but the bad thing about that is it's no limit hold'em, which that actually kind of stops the gambling because people don't want to put a fourth raise in with 6-4 hearts, whereas in Bobby's room that's just the standard play. That is generally limit. So I think the show would be much better if it was limit as opposed to no limit. You wouldn't believe a lot of the stuff you'd see in there.
But as far as kind of the interaction with the players and kind of the dynamics of the game, is that a similar experience, or did the cameras just change too much?
They changed some of it. I mean, they clean up a lot of it. Like, I can't make any of my ethnic jokes on there. So
Shocking that you would make those, in my experience with you. Actually shocking that you wouldn't. You played really well on there, and you seem to not have been affected by the presence of the cameras, where other guys, I think, being on TV really hurt their game, and they felt they had to make crazy plays or call down everything.
Yeah.
Is that your judgment of it?
Yeah, a lot of times I forget they're there. I mean, it's kind of like when they're on those reality shows and they do that stupid stuff, and they say, how could he do it? And then, you just forget the camera's there after a while, and I think about it the first 10 minutes, and after that, it's just, it's another game.
I mean, it does seem like when you're on, you're really on to make money, and maybe other guys want to make money, but they certainly are aware that this is an opportunity to show what they've got or make some sort of marketing statement. And
right.
It just seems like you've always been, even more than other times, just very focused on playing.
That causes problems for me. I don't know, the real deal of the show we're doing at the Venetian, when I met with the producers, they said, well, you don't talk much.
Right.
So, well, that you see me, I'm focusing, I'm playing poker. I'm not there to screw around and, make a jackass out of myself like some guys are doing. I'm there to try and play poker and win. I said, when we do the show, we're not playing for real money. Well, we are, but not really. So I said, that won't be the same thing. That'll be more of a fun thing. So
Give us the brief on what that is, because I saw an announcement about that.
Right, yeah. It's the first time I've been able to talk about it, actually. It's a show like, Siegfried and Roy or Blue Man Group or whatever. I mean, we're not painting up blue or anything, but...
That could be an idea.
Maybe. But there's 10 pros, and 2 pros are in each show. And they bring up 6 audience members, and they play down to 1. He picks a pro, and then there's a 9th hand dealt. And you get to choose if you want to raise, fold, or call before the flop. Only the audience gets to see that hand. Whoever does best with their decisions gets to come up at the end, too, and play 3-handed with the pro and the guy who survived the sit and go. There's all kinds of prizes they give away. If you get dealt a bro flush, you get $1 million, which is pretty unlikely, but it obviously happens.
To say the least.
Yeah. But, I mean, they're giving away, big screen plasma TVs and, all kinds of cool stuff.
So it's a big circus, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, will you have a song or something?
Well, yeah, I think so.
That would be great. I would pay to see that if Todd was going to do a song.
The one most memorable moment, which I guess it'll be different in this environment, but in high stakes poker, very memorable to me in all the seasons, has been the hand that you played a pot against Daniel and Sammy. And on the very end, I mean, you took a card off on the turn, it seemed like, to see whether there'd be an opportunity to take it on the river, not on the merits of the hand necessarily. On the river, there were 4 spades, and Daniel had the ace of spades. Mm-hmm. And you barely bet half the pot and took it down. Now, watching the hand in isolation in the abstract, it seems amazing because with all the money out there, and we've seen a lot of episodes where Daniel's calling on the
Daniel
end.
called every hand on the entire series.
So that's something that I always ask people about, whether there must be more going on in terms of previous history or the context, stuff that you just can't pick up just watching the one hand, because otherwise it just doesn't add up. Just in isolation for someone to make that laydown.
Well, I think the cameras affected him a little bit. He wanted to make a genius laydown, and it looked like I had jacks full. So if I had, I said if I had jacks full, well, I wouldn't bet the pot here. I'd bet like half the pot. So that's what I did.
Certainly you represented a strong hand. It's just that with the money out there, people are going to convince themselves, well, he also might not. Sammy's the third player in the pot, which also means that you might be in there figuring he's out of line, or that you can get paid out. There's also stuff that justifies a call. And I'm not saying it's easy to call, because we know what the hands are, but it's just interesting that in that situation, you guys have to have played before, or there has to be something going on where he's willing to make that laydown, especially with TV, especially knowing that people are going to see him make that laydown.
Right, like I said, that had a lot to do with it. I play a lot with him. He knows I'm a fairly tight player, and then that's kind of out of character, which obviously is why I did it. And if you watch Sammy's face, it looked like he was going to throw up when that spade hit. He was just so. I was sure Sammy was out of it, so we just had to go through Daniel.
We know that Daniel respects your game, so that was part of it.
Right.
But I don't remember where that came in the chronology of the show. Maybe Daniel had already taken a lot of stick from his colleagues for calling all those hands on one of the seasons, so now maybe he was in the mindset that he's going to make a laydown. But you represented the hand perfectly, and he laid it down. That's pretty cool.
You were saying that TV could have had an impact on his thinking. Was that already in your thinking when you called on the flop or on the turn, thinking that the way this might come down could be an opportunity, partly because of that?
Well, on the turn, I thought Daniel had a 9 or a spade, or possibly like ace of spades, which he had both.
There was a jack and a 9 on the board.
Right, so I had Daniel beat anyway at that point. And Sammy, I thought Sammy was going to fire no matter what when I checked. So I thought the way he looked and things. I played a lot with him. He looked pretty strong, but I thought it's probably 50-50 if he has it here. I thought there was still about a 50% chance I still had the best hand. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I didn't think that on the end, but then I thought at this point it looks just like I flopped jacks full and just went right along with the action.
It.
Right.
A lot of people have had, obviously, including us, almost no insight into really what the dynamics are of that group of players playing together. And walking by Bobby's room or looking in, a lot of times you say, every single guy here is a world famous big player. And is it just that the mix of games sometimes catches people in games they're not good at, or guys aren't as good as we think or they think? Or is it more a situation where some guys are going to tilt off or just not be playing their best that day? Because
probably all of that. If you watch, these guys are some of the worst players I've ever seen. It's just unreal. Some of the hands you see, you wouldn't. I can tell you some hands you say, though, you're exaggerating. That can't be true.
It can't be true at this 2,000, 4,000 or
right.
bigger game.
Is it true? Is this? They often say that the biggest game in the room is a lot easier than the second biggest game. Is that your impression of that?
Well, the second biggest game is usually like No Limit Hold'em or something. It's usually not.
Right, but let's say the second biggest mixed game, like what you guys are playing. Because that game is guys who are working really hard and they're pros trying to get into the big game. But in the big game, guys have tons of money and maybe they're playing a little more poorly.
Yeah, that's probably true. Especially the next biggest game now is so much further down.
Right, there's a big gap now.
Right, which is unfortunate. There's a pyramid effect where the money goes up. Well, now there's a big gap because nobody's jumping from 2 and 400 to 2 and 4,000. So
yeah,
you have to go on a good run to that 400.
You've got to have some outside income come in or something to make that jump. Not on the merits of your 200, 400 score.
Todd, I know that you were super happy when they introduced the 50,000 horse at the World Series because you were good at all those games.
Right.
Now, I know this year you had an opportunity to play with my colleague here. Now, he claims he played well, but it doesn't sound like it to me. Now, you played at the same table with him. I don't know if you recall.
No, not really.
See, I made no impression, which is part of my strategy. We had a tough table the first day, actually, with we had Mike Matazzao. Well, we had a tough table just from that standpoint because we had Mike, we had John Joanda, we had Patrick Antonius. We had a whole group, and Matt Glantz ended up making the final table. But, see, not memorable.
Yeah.
The only memorable thing was the dealer that we had who was coughing and spitting on all the cards.
Oh, geez,
That'll freshen up your memory.
Yeah.
Well, Diego told me he didn't win a hand, so that might be why you can't remember him.
He just sits there folding.
I was just folding most of the day.
Would that be the bracelet you'd want to win the most?
No, the one with the most money.
Yeah.
The big event.
This is more old school, the money.
And more prestige, too, in that, too. That's
The other I mean, obviously you've made your name in tournaments, and now people are aware of just your success in the live games. But the other non-televised but event that now has gotten a lot of documentation was Andy Beal coming into town and playing against the high limit players, heads up limit hold'em. And the one thing that's come out of that is that you guys beat him, but it really was a couple of guys who really took him down, including you. I mean, obviously, either some guys are a lot better at heads up limit hold'em, which I believe, because just because you're great at all the games doesn't mean you're good in that one discipline, or certain guys running better. But you were one of the key figures that kind of salvaged the bankrolls of all the high limit players. I mean, what is it like playing with that? It seems to me like a lot more pressure when you've got other people's money on them than your own.
Yeah, 100 times more, which was, I liked it. It's fun. I mean, I think I play better under pressure, so it was.
What about the converse, which was some of the other guys playing with your money?
It was kind of scary. Some of them, I was like, why is this guy playing again?
No, but I mean, that to me, I mean, I can relate to other people playing. If someone's backing you or if someone's got money invested, you really feel an obligation to deliver. I mean, this was for big money. This wasn't just, hey, I'll take a shot and I'll put you in this and whatever happens. I mean, this was like a lot of your money on the line.
Yeah, like one day we couldn't play poker. Nobody had any money. There was like playing on credit, and they were playing Chinese, and nobody had any money to
just write it out on a sheet of paper.
So like if we lost, he would have like bankrupted the big game. So
the interesting thing, more than the actual poker to me, was the dynamics among the pros who were playing them, because that has as long as anyone who's not in the game, that has to be the most nerve-wracking experience. And then, little infighting between the pros, and it's easy to criticize someone's play from the rail, but they
see, you're in this weird thing, I would think, where on the one hand, your money's on the line, you want to know how someone's playing, but at the same time, if you're there sweating them, that doesn't do them any good, and you don't want them doing that to you either. So it's this weird balance, isn't it? Or
well, it depends. One time I played all day and I was going home, and Ted Forrest was going to play, and he was saying, "No, I want you to stay here." And I'm like, "Well, why?" He goes, "Well, he just wanted me to stay." So I stayed, and I kept staring at Andy. I played like 40-80 hold'em or something, and I just kept staring at Andy, and he would look at me and look at me, and I just kept. I know that had to make him nervous.
It's just strange. So he knew that
we were getting desperate at that point. I was.
You're trying to hypnotize him.
Yeah, give Ted any kind of advantage I could. Just.
I mean, heads up limit hold'em is kind of its own thing. I mean, I could see where obviously Andy Beal, it would be almost impossible for him to get up to the level of all you guys with all your experience playing in all these games. But heads up limit hold'em is kind of something that you can master, or you can come up with with some non-exploitable way to play that it's not even poker anymore to some degree. I mean, it's its own game. I mean, at a certain point, did you feel like, maybe not so much with you, but with some people, I mean, he really was a favorite just based on coming up with a game plan for that.
Well, he beat the majority of players. That's his biggest, claim, that he beat like 70% of the players he played. Just like the 30% of us who beat him pretty good.
Right. I mean, Michael Craig's book is just fascinating in how it kind of, gets in there and talks about all the dynamics. Were there ever any tensions in terms of, well, like you said, some people were playing them better and better suited to this in terms of who was going to play, or in terms of any ego involved, and or was it just the money's on the line and everyone knew what had to be done?
No, in the beginning there was a lot of speculation who to play in that. And like the first time I played him, he beat me. But the way I don't know if you remember the hand or anything, but I mean.
Oh, I do.
The 6-4 and the.
Oh yeah.
So they're like, well, we're talking about who to play, and they're like, well, let Todd. Well, he already beat Todd. I'm like, well. He beat me because he put all his money in when he was like a 20-1 dog, and then drew out on the end.
Todd can't beat him. He lost the big hand.
And that was literally like, well, Todd already tried and couldn't do it. I'm like, well, okay.
See, that's the interesting thing to me. Like, even though all these players, if they were calm and in a calmer moment, they would know that means nothing, and that you had the guy crushed, and then you lost a huge hand. But when your entire bankroll is on the line against a multi-billionaire, sometimes you get a little irrational.
It was a scary thing.
I remember I read a quote from you where you said that you're like the Rodney Dangerfield of poker because you don't get respect.
Right.
You can't possibly think that, because I think you get tons of respect.
That.
See, from my perspective, you get tons of respect. I've never heard anyone badmouth your game. Maybe your manner at times. But tell us what you mean by that.
I don't know. When if you see anybody put their top 10 players, I would never be on that list.
When you say anyone, though, you're talking about people who watch like World Poker Tour on TV, or
Well,
people who play?
Even people who play, I think it would still apply, which is, it's always kind of strange to me because the way you keep score in poker is money. Whoever has the most money. And I see the guys who are always at the top of the list are calling me up to borrow 20,000. I'm like, well, what's wrong with this pitcher?
Well, you've played in the big game for a long time. I mean, it's not just like, oh, he won a few tournaments and he's taken a few shots. I mean, you've played even back before there was Bellagio, right? I mean, when there was the Mirage. So, I mean, it still seems unusual, but maybe that's what you need to drive yourself, to convince yourself of that.
I don't know. I've never
So-
seen myself in those top 10.
Does that matter to you?
Not really, but I mean a little bit, but not a whole lot.
See, sometimes it's like you'll act like something really bothers you, but it doesn't.
Well, I only talk about it like if it's in an interview
Right,
like this,
right.
so I don't
Yeah,
sit
I
at
don't see
home
you
and go,
bitching
damn
about
it, I can't take it.
Right, because you got the money. If you have the money, yeah. Which I think whatever.
You've done a good job of at least keeping the money. Probably that's why people are borrowing.
Now, what's the current price that I would have to pay to snip off your ponytail? Because I saw some speculation on this.
I think it would have been cheaper, but I'm a little happier now. It's all kind of one length, so it would be pretty expensive.
Though it's funny because, prop bets have such a long history in poker. There's so many absurd prop bets, so many big money prop bets, and you'd think that would have come up and been the subject of like a big.
Well,
prop
he's
bet
had
just
offers,
because
right? I saw you had some offers.
Yeah, I turned down 20,000 once.
Yeah, but 20,000. I mean, they just bet 100,000 on Mike's weight bet, and there've been $1 million bets on stuff.
Yeah, but that'd be hard to win. Cutting the ponytail off would be easy.
Right. The pony.
For
I guess,
100,
I
I'd
guess
do
the
it.
other ones they're factoring in the expected value just based on the likelihood, whereas this one they figure
Yeah, Mike had to work.
if you want to do it, you have to do it.
Right, Mike had to work really hard for that one.
Were you involved in all these bracelet bets at the World Series, either as a player or as a bettor
Yeah, I laid Phil Ivey 2-1. He would win
against him?
Right.
And people weren't betting against you or for you. I knew you winning.
Not this year. I bet Mike Matisal last year. He laid me 5-1,
Hmm.
which was a pretty stupid bet, but
How many
he
events?
won it.
How many events did you play this year?
Probably, I don't know, 17 or something like that.
You're not, because I mean one of the themes this year at the World Series, which just ended, is that a lot of the big cash game players were playing a lot of tournaments more than ever, and in part motivated by the bracelet bets, and in part just motivated by the fact that people really appreciate the value of the bracelets now and how how important it is for just marketing and promotion and so forth. So, and to some degree, I mean, of course, we saw more pros or more well-known TV pros winning bracelets, but we also saw well-known pros just losing their minds, playing every tournament and maybe, having a very negative effect on their play. That's why I was curious, because you didn't fall into that trap for whatever reason. In other words, you stuck to your plan of not playing a crazy number of events.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those guys signed up. They had a ton of chips, like Chris Ferguson, I think, was chip leader, and he signed up for the 5 o'clock event. I'm like, what kind of confidence are you showing in your game?
Yeah.
He signed up for like every event, I guess.
But I mean, the one thing, yeah, he did, and a bunch of guys
I guess
did.
Phil did too. If you looked at Phil towards the end of the tournament, it's like, I wish I could have bet a lot more. He was
a little frantic.
that wasn't the face of a winner there. That was just,
A lot of guys were just playing. I mean, I had Andy Black on my table one day, and he was playing in the 2 tournaments, and he'd played almost every day. I mean, guys really played. And even though people are used to playing in marathon stretches, especially cash game players are used to playing, a whole day or 2 days, coming in every morning at noon to play a tournament, which is also a different environment because you take breaks when they tell you to take breaks, and you got to fight through all the crowds and all the craziness. I mean, it's a lot more wearing, I think, than people think.
oh, it's definitely tough. They let us show up late this year with no penalty, which was,
Right.
that was actually my suggestion last year to Jack Effel. That, you show up 2 hours late, so that wasn't near as bad. Show up at 2 o'clock with no penalty, and so that was a big help to me.
Now, the other thing is during the World Series itself, it seems like the big action had dried up to a large extent, and we talked to different guys on here about whether that was because people were just playing, trying to win a bracelet, or is it just the economy, or is it just the natural order of things that the games got really big and people's bankrolls didn't survive. I mean, you're in a good position to know. I mean, what was behind it, and also are the big games coming back and kind of recovering, or is it still kind of a dry season in the big live games?
Well, during the World Series, I don't care about it. I mean, I'm playing 14 hours a day anyway. What am I going to go play 6 hours live?
Well, like Barry Greenstein says he does.
He doesn't. He's tougher than
He
me.
says he doesn't need to sleep, that he plays the tournaments, and then just for recreation he goes and plays in the big games.
But like I said earlier, the pyramid, the jump's been too big in the big game, and I've been saying this for like 2 years, and I think it's really happened now, where it's just there's no new players coming in, and the wrong people get broke, and there's big game's really struggling.
So
right
is the
now.
big game would have to move down, or
Yeah,
Right, how do you solve that? I mean,
move it down. Right.
just play smaller.
Right, it should be like 1 or 2,000, I think. Once it gets up to 4 and 8, I mean, it's just really,
if it's 1 or 2,000, I'll just jump right in.
yeah. No, but a lot of people will.
I
No,
know,
but I guess
I know.
one or 2,000 you might get a drop in,
Right.
an actual drop in, right? Or someone who, I mean, at least from my experience, the greatest experience is someone who they just have a great day at a smaller limit,
Or
and they just
tournament.
decide to try to parlay it. Well, the tournament's a classic one, but I just mean literally from one table to the
Oh,
next.
yeah.
They're just winning pot after pot. Now they've got enough to the buy into the other game. They just bring the chips right over. And now, of course, their whole mind is different because the stakes are much bigger.
That's when I see
and-
Todd with a big smile all day if I look over.
I mean, the other thing that we talked about to a couple of guys, Brandon Adams talked about this, and I thought he had good insights into this, is the fact that when you getting big games together is also a matter of somebody organizing them and sort of promoting them and calling up people and getting things going. I mean, in that game, is that part of it too? Do you play a part in that, or?
Yeah, I used to, like Eli, call Eli what time you're going in, and call a couple other people so that, 6 o'clock there'd be at least 4 of us there, and then go from there.
Eli was saying that Chip used to play a big part in that, and then
Yeah.
now that Chip's gone, that Eli's doing it.
And Eli's well suited for it, I think.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
got
he
the
has
right personality.
personality and knows people, likes people. But I mean, that seems like, I mean, obviously there are bigger issues, like you mentioned, that if it's too big a jump, it's too big a jump. If people don't have money, they don't have money. But you also need kind of that.
You need a base of players, definitely, or the game will ever start.
I'm willing to play up to $10, $20 mixed game. We can build a game around me.
If you're in the game, it'll probably fill up.
Yeah.
When we were playing, even though I was very low key, you were talking about your watch. I mean, literally, I will endorse you as a top promoter, because while we were playing, almost everyone that came by, Todd was actually talking about his watch to passers-by, to everyone.
Well, what's the
people at
name of the
table.
watch so I can buy one?
It's a Hardcore Watch Company. They used to open a store in the Rio. Finally got open. And yeah, they make real cool watches, which are completely different and kind of, I don't know, you probably can't see. But they're
Pretty cool.
Anyway, Todd, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
And
Todd.
I know now that you're up, you'll probably go play some game. Todd literally came straight from bed to do the interview, and we
I'm going
appreciate
back
it.
to sleep.
Are you?
The sun's still up. I mean, it's
Yeah, this is bad.
Anyhow, thanks for coming by. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at thescoop at cardplayer.com. Catch us on Card Player TV.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call.
We play at FullTiltPoker.com.